would like to introduce you to Wilma International, a 50-year-old real estate development and construction company. How did we become a company of substantial impact in 3 countries, the Netherlands, the United States, and West Germany? Let us show you the history of Wilma and some of its more important recent projects, and discuss our philosophy for development and construction. The story began on January the 1st, 1939. 2 young men named Maas and Willemsen, of a combined age of 44 years, started a business as subcontractors. Their first job was in the construction of the St. Louis boarding school in Weert. It was their last job for a while. 7 months later, World War II broke out. The Netherlands mobilized. Maas and Willemsen were called to arms. About 8 months later, on May 14, 1940, the Dutch resistance was over. The Netherlands demobilized. Maas and Willemsen picked up the pieces and began again in business. This time they were to rebuild 2 small bridges in Weert, which had been destroyed by Dutch troops. Then came development of a few accommodation camps for the labor corps. And then, Maas and Willemsen are out of business. Again. They build no bunkers, no airfields. They hid their equipment and went underground. They will not re-enter business until the Netherlands has been finally liberated on May 5, 1945. In Brabant and Limburg, areas of southeast Holland, their reconstituted company undertakes restoration of farmhouses, and after that, the construction of houses at a steadily increasing scale. Until 1952, when Wilma obtains its first large-scale contract. Construction of 860 homes, complete with new infrastructure in Maastricht. The project, called Nazareth, is for 10 million guilders, a very substantial sum at the time. Nazareth remains a desirable project today. Wilma's first division in Weert rebuilt much of the Nazareth district to meet present-day needs. In 1956, Wilma reached new heights, quite literally. The construction of a nurse's home at St. Joseph's Hospital in Heerlen. It was, at that time, the tallest building in Limburg. In 1959, Wilma undertook the crowning achievement of the first 20 years of its operation. St. Martin's Tower in Weert was restored in all its glory. The decade of the 1960s proved to be the era of Wilma's rapid growth, beginning in 1960 with the 13-floor Annadal apartment block in Maastricht, comprising 132 apartments and 4 stores. In the same part of the country, South Limburg, 331 houses and 96 apartments were then built for the Kerkrade Town Council and 34 single-family homes for a local housing association. Its Rolldakkerveld project typifies housing construction in those years. By the end of the decade, Wilma has grown from a small local contractor building 2 little bridges to the biggest construction firm in the south of Holland. Annual volume first exceeded $1 million in 1950. By the end of the 50s, it was 10 million, and by the end of the 60s, 100 million. 5 years later, Wilma became the largest residential builder in the Netherlands, a position it has maintained to the present time. This success was founded on its constant efforts to improve the construction process. Wilma utilizes state-of-the-art methods for concrete construction and was the first Holland builder to introduce wood frame construction. Here we see projects in Nieuwegein and in Lelystad. Wood construction offered the first post-war opportunities for significant variety of design. In the quite small area of Cederhof, we see this variation, from Basic Housing Act rental units to custom homes, to mid-market production homes, to senior housing. Each project was well accepted in the marketplace. Wood and rock wool offer excellent insulation at a fraction of the cost of the historic Dutch brick-built home. Far more flexible floor plans are possible. Construction periods are shorter, hence lower interest costs. This project was finished in 14 months, very fast for the time, although quite slow today. Wilma imported construction methods from Canada and entered into a joint venture with a Swedish producer of wood frame construction houses. Canadian construction workers were utilized on site for the Cederhof project during its startup phase. In the mid-70s, Wilma began its international expansions. It entered the German market, building mostly homes, shopping malls, and offices. Its presence in the market has steadily grown. Presently, Wilma has 40 housing projects there. As in the Netherlands, the West German company is also now very active in inner-city renewal and in office construction. In the mid-1970s, Wilma crossed the Atlantic to the land of unlimited possibilities, the United States. The game plan judiciously followed was to cross the Sun Belt, east to west. First to Atlanta and Florida with Wilma Southeast. Then to Texas with Wilma Southwest. Then to California with Wilma Pacific. In 3 major regional operations, Wilma now develops offices, business parks, residential, and numerous land development projects for sale to users and other builders. Over these last 15 years, Wilma has continued to expand its activities in the Netherlands, where it is not only housed in Weert, its hometown, but also in The Hague, Amsterdam, Rotterdam, Utrecht, and various other regional centers. The poet Gerrit Achterberg once wrote of The Hague, "You tap it and it sings." And it does sing, inside and outside, as evidenced by the new music theater, a noteworthy Wilma project. Or by a much more prosaic edifice, the new Shell headquarters building, built to the explicit requirement of the Shell management that its new complex give the impression that it had always been there. Its architecture had to merge with its surroundings. But the surprise comes when you step inside. Perhaps The Hague is, after all, a city which values inner peace more than outer display. Take the Supreme Court building, which offers a stateliness typical of The Hague, as personified in stone. Again, from the outside, the building is not so striking, but take a look inside. We find the same feel in the new court building in Breda, demonstrated in a completely different way. Architects once said that if you really want to know the Netherlands, don't look at houses or schools, but at the buildings where the scales of justice are weighed, because we have just enough imagination and money for that. Other important recent projects are the Hunsehuis in Groningen, situated close to the rail station and the head office of the Central Posts and Telecommunications Administration. Here the new town hall in Almere, a community dedicated to establishing its own identity and not being known as a suburb of Amsterdam. In Nieuwegein, a satellite town of Utrecht, we see a new shopping center. And once again we return from our travels to southeast Holland, the region of Wilma's birth. As the area's dominant builder, Wilma has produced projects ranging from almost countless housing complexes to the Provincial House, the seat of local government, and a somewhat controversial project. Nobody can deny that this building does not radiate something. Certainly, in one respect, it is a genuine Dutch building. It is built on 735 piles. Even its critics admit that it radiates what Maastricht seeks to be, the Little Hague of the South. It is first and foremost a working building, with a generous square footage per worker. Now let us visit the MECC, what we believe is the crowning jewel of the Maastricht region. MECC, Maastricht Euro Congress Center, is a major European conference and convention center complex with 2 auditoriums, one with 1,100 seats, one with 550 seats, designed with a common stage to be used separately or simultaneously at a capacity of 1,650. But the MECC has more to offer: conference room accommodations, halls for exhibitions and fairs, catering and hotel facilities, and a retail center. The multi-party venture to produce this exciting modern mixed-use complex is unique. Spearheaded by Wilma Design and Marketing Plans, the project was developed through the joint venture efforts of Wilma, regional and local authorities, investors, financiers, and many others. Wilma continues to promote the concept of mixed-use projects, which have been so well carried out in Europe, and hopefully a concept of growing vogue for urban development in the United States. Here we see in Rotterdam, in the Old Harbor, also known as the Spanish Quarter, perhaps the most convivial new project in Rotterdam, with a variety of housing accessible to terraces and restaurants and other places for people to find a quiet spot in the heart of the city. Also, close to the Old Harbor, we see the Boompjes, 3 snow-white 240-foot apartment towers designed by the architect Klonder over offices, hotel, and food services. These 2- and 3-room apartments offer a stunning view over the River Meuse. Next, we see an important new project in Germany, the Sophienhof in Kiel. What is seen as a modern, attractive shopping center featuring a glass roof 2 1/2 football fields long opens to a gathering place in the heart of the city, built over the railroad where you can live in your quiet apartment, shop in peace, or enjoy a cultural event. And this meeting place features many restaurants and cafes. We think Sophienhof is exemplary of modern urban planning, with shopping and living areas directly serviced by a public transportation interchange, train and bus, all in a single structure which attracts some 40,000 to 50,000 visitors daily. Wilma is also promoting, in Europe and the United States, another major concept of its urban planning, the airport-related business park we call Trade Ports in the United States and Transpolis in Europe. Here we see Atlanta Trade Port, now under development and master planned for 5 million square feet of offices, industrial retail showrooms, and hotels. Atlanta Trade Port is a joint venture between Wilma, Mitsui, and Mitsubishi. Another major trade port is under construction at the Jacksonville, Florida airport, and in Houston near its international airport. There we have developed a site known as Central Green, now being built out with office, industrial, and transportation-related uses. In joint venture with Holland's Posts and Telecommunications Service, the PTT, and Philips, Holland's major contributor to the world of electronics, Wilma is developing Transpolis at Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam, a state-of-the-art modern communications-oriented business park, offering each occupant the most up-to-date communication media, automated systems, data, networks, videotape, video telephones, everything required by a modern enterprise, all specially developed to the occupants' needs, with particular attention to users involved in world trade. Venlo Trade Port is another example, a variation of the theme. Here in eastern Holland, near the Ruhr area in Germany, is an ultra-modern center for storage and distribution of road and rail freight to and from the Dutch transit points. The Rotterdam container firm ECT, Europe's largest, will build an inland rail container terminal here. Wilma is developing the adjoining commercial site. As a final example of Wilma's flexibility, we see Therme 2000 in Valkenburg, a very modern thermal bath and air resort. And it goes on. Many other exciting projects like these are underway. But where do we go from here? What will the future hold? Planning, yes. Development, yes. Construction, yes. But the developer must be flexible to respond to ever-changing needs. He must carefully integrate detail without losing sight of the overall objective, to produce cost-effective products of quality and originality. Wilma has the courage to take the financial risks attendant to new ideas when based on sound, integrated planning. This is the philosophy Wilma will carry into its next 50 years.